Good afternoon, YouTube. It's Tony the Lakeland biker, and I've just been listening to Andrew Marr on Radio 2, and they were talking about the economy, and there was this Ponzi geezer going on about financial services being key to the country's recovery. But by putting financial services as the key of our economy, what we're selling is smoke and mirrors. It's just snake oil. It was the financial services industry which got us into the mess we're in at the moment, as far as bailing the banks out and all those billions and billions and billions of pounds they got of taxpayers' money. When, if we want a serious economic recovery in this country, what we need is to start making things again. Get back a manufacturing sector, because along with the manufacturing sector would come an affluent working class, and if you've got an affluent working class, they are buying goods, and they're buying goods from shops, so shops take on more staff to deal with the extra business. So the government's getting good income tax off the affluent working class, they're getting good income tax out of the retail sector, they'll be getting good tax out of the supply sector, because obviously those retail outlets have to be supplied, and those suppliers will be giving a good tax take because they're buying from the manufacturers. So it's a positive reinforcement cycle. An affluent working class combined with a manufacturing sector will bring economic prosperity and, more importantly, stability. Where the situation we have at the moment is we have a working class who are on lower minimum wage, which means all they can afford to do is pay food, fuel and housing. They don't have a disposable income to spend in the retail sector. Ooh, nice car. So if you've got that affluent working class supporting an active retail sector, you've got a strong bedrock to your economy. And financial services is not a strong bedrock to an economy. A smashing example of how the manufacturing sector can work is Triumph motorcycles. When John Bloor took Triumph over, I think it was in the mid-80s, they started building bikes at the start of the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Everybody laughed, oh, leaky Triumphs, no one's going to buy them old things. But now they're one of Britain's best exporting companies, because they're making product people want to buy. And because people want to buy those products, they're able to give their workforce a good standard rate of pay. So if you've got that firm bedrock of manufacturing, you're going to have a good bedrock to your economy. If you base your economy on smoke and mirrors, when the bankers get caught out, and they're going to get caught out again, we're going to have to bail them out again. And I think this time the bankers should have to bail themselves out. There is a politician in the States called Elizabeth Warren, and she's trying to bring back a piece of legislation they had in the States which made the investment arms of banks separate from their deposits side of the bank. So people who are putting their money into the bank are protected if the bank goes bust. Because as it stands at the moment, the banks don't gamble with their money, they gamble with our money, the money we've deposited with them. So when they cock it up, they're not the ones who lose out, we are. And not only have they bollocksed our savings and investments, but also they bollocksed the economy because the taxpayers had to bail them out for hundreds of billions of pounds. Could you imagine what would have happened if they'd put, say, 10% of that bank bailout money into the working sector, into the working classes? it would have stimulated retail, which would have stimulated supply, which would have stimulated manufacturing. As it is, they gave the bankers the money on the assumption that the bankers would let it trickle down to those of us at the bottom, and it didn't. So you've got a working class who are on lower minimum wage, you've got a middle class who are squeezed to death by everything, and then you've got a small group of people at the very, very top. I believe it's 10% of society own 60% of the wealth, and of that 10% of society who own 60% of the wealth, round about 2% of them own 25% of it. That's not a fair society. Fair enough, let the rich have a good slice of the pie, say 20%, but 60%'s excessive. Anyhow, like I say, I was just listening to Andrew Marr, and it really got up my goat with this financial services bloke. Really irritated me, so I'm afraid I've vented my vitriol and on you, the happy people of YouTube land. It's the bank holiday weekend this weekend, so if you're out on the bike, ride safely and watch out for the blind car driver, because there's going to be loads of them around. If you're coming up to the Lake District, enjoy the roads, but watch out for the potholes and the sheep and the blind walkers and the suicidal cyclists. And everybody else, take care, be well, toodle pip.